The woman in the gray coat had $27 left until Friday, and she'd just spent 8 of it on bread she couldn't afford to give away. Emma Greyson stood under the awning of the corner bakery, rain drumming against the canvas above her head, while the city lights blurred into watercolor streaks across the wet pavement. The night market sprawled before her, vendors packing up early because of the weather, their colorful stalls collapsing like wilting flowers. She clutched the paper bag to her chest, feeling the warmth seep through, and told herself she'd eat half tonight and save half for tomorrow. That was when she saw the girl, small, maybe 7 or 8, huddled between 2 closed vegetable stalls with her knees drawn up and her face hidden. The rain had soaked through her thin dress, plastering dark hair against her skull. No coat, no shoes. Emma's stomach twisted. She should walk past. She had her own problems. The hospital bills from her mother's final month still came in envelopes with red stamps, and the accounting firm had cut her hours again. $27 minus 8 for bread meant $19 for the next 4 days, and that didn't count the bus fare she'd need to get to work. Emma took 3 steps toward the girl anyway. "Hey," she said softly, crouching down. "Are you okay?" The girl lifted her head. Her eyes were too old for her face, dark and knowing in a way that made Emma's skin prickle. But her lips were blue with cold, and her small hands trembled. "Hungry," the girl whispered. Emma didn't think. She opened the bag and held out the bread, still warm, the crust golden and perfect. "Here, take it." The girl stared at her, unblinking. "All of it?" "All of it. Go on." Small fingers reached out and took the bag with a reverence that broke something in Emma's chest. The girl clutched it like a treasure, and for just a moment, Emma saw her eyes flash with something bright and fierce, like gratitude magnified beyond human measure. "Thank you," the girl breathed. And then she was gone, darting between the stalls with impossible speed, leaving Emma alone in the rain. Emma straightened slowly, her empty hands curling into fists. Her stomach growled. She had a sleeve of crackers at home and maybe some peanut butter if she hadn't finished it. She'd be fine. That was foolish. The voice came from behind her, low and smooth, with an accent she couldn't quite place. Emma turned and forgot how to breathe. The man stood at the edge of the awning's shadow, untouched by the rain despite having no umbrella. He was tall, impossibly tall, dressed in a long black coat that looked like it cost more than her yearly rent. His hair fell past his shoulders, white as snow, and his skin matched, pale and luminous in the dim light. His eyes were silver, bright enough to catch the neon glow from the market signs, and when he looked at her, Emma felt pinned, like a butterfly on a collector's board. "Excuse me?" she managed. "Foolish," he repeated, stepping closer. Up close, she could see the sharp lines of his face, the aristocratic nose, the mouth that looked cruel until it softened into something almost gentle. "To give your last food to a stranger." "How do you know it was my last?" Emma started, then stopped. How did he know? She looked down at herself, at her second-hand coat with the fraying cuffs, her worn sneakers, the bag she carried that she'd repaired 3 times with duct tape. The evidence was written all over her, she supposed. She lifted her chin. She needed it more. Did she? The man tilted his head, studying her with an intensity that made her want to squirm. "You're thin, tired. Your hands shake. When did you last eat a full meal?" "That's none of your business." "No," he agreed. "It isn't." But he didn't look away. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the rain and the distant sounds of the city. Then, inexplicably, he smiled. It transformed his face, turning him from strange and intimidating into something heartbreakingly beautiful. "What is your name?" "Emma. Emma Greyson." "Emma." He said it like he was tasting it, rolling it around in his mouth. "I am Eryx Ashenheart, and you have passed a test tonight, though you did not know you were being tested." "I don't understand." "That girl was mine," Eryx said simply. "I sent her into this city to see if anyone would show her kindness without expectation of reward. In 3 months, across a dozen cities, you are the first who gave without hesitation, the first who saw a child in need, and simply helped. Emma's head spun. What do you mean she was yours? Where are her parents? She has none. I am her guardian now. Eryx took another step closer, and Emma realized with a start that despite the cold rain and the wind, he radiated warmth. Heat seemed to shimmer off his skin. Tell me, Emma Greyson, what do you know of vampires? The world tilted. Emma laughed, sharp and disbelieving. Is this some kind of joke? I wish it were. It would be simpler. Eryx reached up and pulled back his upper lip, revealing canines that were just slightly too long, too sharp. They gleamed in the streetlight. We exist in the spaces between your world and ours. I am a king among my kind, and I have been searching for something rare. A human with a truly kind heart. Kindness is easy when you have plenty. You had nothing, and you still gave. Emma's legs felt weak. She leaned back against the bakery window, her breath fogging the glass. This isn't real. You're not real. I am very real. Eryx's voice was gentle now, coaxing. And I am offering you a choice. Come with me tonight. Become my queen. Live in a world of safety and plenty, want for nothing, and in exchange, bring your warmth to a court that has grown cold over centuries. Or walk away. I will not stop you. You will never see me again, and you can believe this was all a dream brought on by hunger and exhaustion. That's insane. You can't just make someone a queen. There are rules, protocols. I don't know anything about being. Emma's voice cracked. I'm nobody. I'm a temp at an accounting firm who can't afford bread. You are someone who gave her bread to a starving child. That is not nothing. Eryx extended his hand. I know this is sudden. I know it seems impossible. But my kind, we know immediately when we have found what we seek. I have lived 8 centuries, Emma Greyson, and I have never met anyone like you. Come with me. Let me show you. Emma stared at his hand. Long fingers, pale and elegant. No wedding ring, no ring at all. Her rational mind screamed at her to run, to get away from this beautiful stranger with his silver eyes and his impossible claims. But her rational mind had gotten her $27 and an empty stomach and a studio apartment with black mold in the bathroom. Her rational mind had led her to a dead-end job and a mountain of debt and nights where she cried herself to sleep from sheer exhaustion. Sometimes you had to be a little irrational. Emma took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and strong, and the world dissolved. When it reformed, Emma was standing in a grand entrance hall lit by 1,000 candles. The floor was polished black marble that reflected the light like a dark mirror, and the walls were carved stone hung with tapestries that looked medieval. A massive staircase swept upward into shadows, and everywhere she looked, she saw luxury that belonged in a museum. Where? Emma swayed, dizzy. Eryx caught her elbow, steadying her. My home. One of them. This estate exists beneath the city. In the old places humans have forgotten. Are you hurt? The first transition can be disorienting. I'm fine, I think. Emma looked down at their joined hands, at how her fingers looked small and human against his otherworldly pallor. This is real. You're really a vampire. You really brought me to wherever this is. Yes. And you want to make me your queen. Tonight. Yes. Emma's laugh came out borderline hysterical. Why? You don't know me. I don't know you. People don't do this. Even vampire people. I assume vampire people don't just marry strangers. I am not asking you to marry me. Not yet. Eryx's thumb stroked across her knuckles, a gesture so casual and intimate that Emma's breath hitched. I am asking you to accept a title and a position. The details, the relationship between us, that will develop as it develops. But Emma, I need you to understand. I did not make this decision lightly. I have spent decades searching for someone worthy to stand beside me, and I have found no one. Until you. Because I gave away some bread. Because you gave away your only bread. Eryx's eyes burned into hers. Because you put a stranger's need above your own. Because when you looked at that girl, you saw a child, not an opportunity or a burden. You saw someone who mattered. That is the rarest thing in any world, human or vampire. Emma's throat tightened. What if I say yes and then I'm terrible at it? What if I can't do whatever a vampire queen is supposed to do? Then we will learn together. Eryx smiled again, and Emma felt something flutter in her chest. I have not had a queen before, Emma. You will be the first. We will make the role into what we need it to be. But I promise you this. You will be safe, you will be cared for, and you will never be hungry again. That last promise hit harder than Emma expected. She thought of the crackers waiting in her apartment, of the way she'd learned to ignore the hollow ache in her stomach, of splitting a granola bar into thirds to make it last. She thought of the girl's blue lips and shaking hands, and the relief in her eyes when Emma had given her the bread. Maybe this was insane. Probably this was insane. But Emma had been practical and careful her whole life, and it had gotten her nowhere. Okay, she whispered. Okay, yes, I'll try. Eryx's smile widened into something brilliant. He raised her hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles, the gesture courtly and old-fashioned. Then come, my queen. Let me introduce you to our world. He led her deeper into the estate, through corridors lined with portraits of stern-faced people with white hair and silver eyes. Some of the paintings looked centuries old, the subjects dressed in ruffs and doublets, while others were more recent, modern clothing mixed with that same otherworldly quality. Emma tried not to stare, but it was impossible. Everything here spoke of age and wealth and power beyond her comprehension. They entered a vast hall where dozens of vampires had gathered, all of them turning to stare as Eryx and Emma appeared. The vampires were beautiful and terrible, every one of them with that same white hair and pale skin, their eyes ranging from silver to gray to palest blue. They wore elegant clothes in dark colors, velvets and silks, and they moved with inhuman grace. Emma felt like a moth that had stumbled into a gathering of angels, shabby and small and desperately out of place. Eryx's hand tightened on hers. Be calm, he murmured. They will not hurt you. My lord, one of the vampires said, stepping forward. He was older looking than Eryx, his face lined in a way the others weren't, and his voice dripped with disdain. You bring a human into our hall? I bring your queen into our hall, Eryx corrected, his voice ringing clear and commanding. The room went silent. This is Emma Greyson. Tonight, she proved herself worthy of the highest honor I can bestow. She is kind, generous, and compassionate, and she will stand at my side as my chosen. Anyone who wishes to challenge this decision may speak now. The silence stretched. Emma felt dozens of eyes on her, assessing, judging. Her face burned. She wanted to pull her hand free and run, to escape back to her tiny apartment where at least she understood the rules. Then a woman stepped forward, her white hair braided in an intricate crown around her head. She was smaller than the others, delicate as porcelain, but her eyes were fierce. My lord, forgive me, but the law is clear. A queen must be of noble blood, proven lineage stretching back at least 3 generations. It is tradition. It has always been thus. Then perhaps it is time for tradition to change, Eryx said coldly. The council will never allow it. Another vampire spoke up, a man with a scar bisecting his pale eyebrow. If you name a commoner queen, you invite chaos. The noble houses will rebel. Let them try. Eryx's voice was soft, but it carried the weight of mountains. I am your king. My word is law. And I say that Emma Greyson has earned her place here through the oldest test we have, the test of character. I sent Mira into the human world, and Emma was the only one who helped without question. That matters more than bloodlines. Mira, Emma breathed, suddenly understanding. The girl, she's really yours? She is under my protection, Eryx said, glancing down at her. Her family was killed 2 years ago by hunters. I found her in the ruins of her village and took her in. She has been my ward and my responsibility since. I sent her to test the humans because I needed to know if any of them still possessed genuine kindness. You are the answer I was searching for. Emma's head spun. I still don't understand why that makes me qualified to be a queen. Because a queen's role is not to wield power, Emma. It is to temper it, to remind those in power that their choices affect real people. I rule through strength and fear, as all vampire kings must, but strength and fear make poor advisors. I need someone beside me who rules through something else. Through heart. That is you. The woman with the braided hair shook her head. This is madness, my lord. With respect, you cannot simply declare someone queen and expect the court to accept it. The law exists for a reason. Commoners do not understand our ways, our politics, our ancient codes. She will be devoured. Then I will ensure she is not, Eryx said flatly. And if the council wishes to debate this, they may do so. But my decision is made. Emma Greyson is my queen, as of this moment, and she will be treated with the respect that title demands. Is that understood? One by one, the vampires bowed. Some looked angry, others resigned, a few curious. The woman with the braided hair was the last to bow, and when she straightened, her expression was unreadable. As you command, my lord, she said. Eryx inclined his head, then turned and led Emma from the hall. She followed on trembling legs, too overwhelmed to speak. It wasn't until they were alone in another corridor that she finally found her voice. They hate me, she whispered. They fear change, Eryx corrected. That is not the same thing. But Emma, I must be honest with you. This will not be easy. The court will test you. They will push to see if you break. Some will do it out of tradition, others out of genuine malice. You must be prepared for that. How do I prepare for something I don't even understand? Eryx stopped walking and turned to face her, his hands settling on her shoulders. His eyes were serious, searching. By remembering who you are not here because of bloodlines or politics. You are here because you have something they lack. Hold on to that. Let it guide you. And trust me, Emma, I will not let them destroy you. His certainty was intoxicating. Emma wanted to believe him, wanted to lean into that confidence and let it shield her. But she'd learned long ago that promises were easy to make and hard to keep. What if I can't do this? She asked. What if I fail? Then we will face that together. Eryx's hands squeezed gently. But I do not believe you will fail. I believe you are stronger than you know. Emma swallowed hard. I should probably tell you that I have no idea what I'm doing and I'm terrified. Good, Eryx said, and there was a hint of amusement in his voice. Fear means you understand the stakes. Overconfidence would be far more dangerous. He released her shoulders and stepped back. Come. You need rest, and food, and time to process everything that has happened. Tomorrow we will begin your education, but tonight you are simply my guest. He led her to a suite of rooms that were larger than her entire apartment, with a massive four-poster bed draped in dark blue velvet and a bathroom that looked like something from a luxury hotel. There was a sitting area with a fireplace, a wardrobe that stood open to reveal rows of gowns in rich fabrics, and a writing desk positioned by a tall window that overlooked a garden Emma couldn't see clearly in the darkness. This is too much, Emma said faintly. This is yours, Eryx corrected. Everything here is yours now. The clothes, the space, all of it. If you need anything, ring the bell by the door and someone will come. Are you hungry? Emma's stomach growled in answer, and Eryx's mouth quirked. I will have food brought up. Real food, Emma, as much as you want. He moved toward the door, then paused. I know this is overwhelming. I know I have asked something impossible of you. But I meant what I said. You are not alone in this. I will be with you every step. He left before Emma could respond, the door closing softly behind him. Emma stood in the center of the suite, surrounded by wealth she'd never dreamed of, and tried to make sense of what had just happened. 6 hours ago, she'd been a struggling temp worker with $19 to her name. Now she was apparently the queen of a vampire court, engaged in some kind of political powder keg she didn't understand, answerable to a man she'd just met who claimed she was exactly what he'd been searching for. It was completely insane. Emma sank onto the edge of the bed and dropped her face into her hands. She should run. She should demand Eryx send her home right now. This was too big, too fast, too everything. But then she thought of the girl, Mira, with her blue lips and shaking hands. She thought of Eryx's eyes when he'd looked at her, like she was something precious. She thought of the vampires in the hall, beautiful and cold, and how Eryx had stood between them and her without hesitation. Maybe it was insane. But maybe, just maybe, it was also a chance at something better. A knock at the door interrupted her spiral. "Come in," Emma called, expecting a servant. Instead, a small figure slipped through the door. Mira stood there, clean and dry now, wearing a simple white dress. Her dark hair had been brushed until it shone, and her feet were bare. She looked up at Emma with those two old eyes and smiled shyly. "You came," Mira said softly. "I wasn't sure you would." "I wasn't sure either," Emma admitted. She patted the bed beside her. "Come here. Are you okay? You looked so cold before." Mira climbed up and settled next to her, swinging her legs. "I was cold, but it was important. Eryx needed to know if anyone would help. He could have just asked around. He didn't have to put you through that." "It wouldn't have been a real test then," Mira said with a child's logic. "People lie when they're asked questions, but what they do when they think no one's watching, that's the truth." She looked up at Emma, her expression solemn. "You gave me your last food. I tasted your hunger when you handed it over. Why did you do that?" Emma thought about it. "Because you needed it more. And because you're just a kid. Kids shouldn't be hungry and cold and scared." "What about you?" "You were all those things too. I'm an adult. I can handle it." "That doesn't seem fair," Mira said thoughtfully. "Adults need help too." Emma felt her throat tighten. "Yeah, sometimes they do." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Mira leaned against Emma's side, a small, warm weight. "I'm glad Eryx picked you. The court needs someone who remembers what it's like to hurt. They've forgotten. They've been safe and powerful for so long, they don't understand suffering anymore. But you do. You'll make them remember." "I don't think I'm going to make them do anything," Emma said dryly. "They looked like they wanted to eat me." "Some of them did," Mira said cheerfully. "But Eryx won't let them. He's really strong, the strongest, and he likes you. I can tell. He doesn't know me. He knows enough." Mira yawned, her small face scrunching. "I should go. Eryx said you need to rest, but I wanted to say thank you for the bread and for coming. I think you'll be a good queen." She slipped off the bed and padded to the door, turning back to wave before disappearing into the corridor. Emma stared after her, feeling like she'd been hit by a truck. How did an 8-year-old have more composure than her? Another knock came, and this time it was a servant with a tray of food. Emma ate mechanically, too tired to taste anything, then changed into one of the nightgowns from the wardrobe and crawled into bed. The sheets were silk, impossibly soft, and the mattress cradled her like a cloud. She thought she wouldn't be able to sleep, too wired and anxious. But exhaustion claimed her the moment her head hit the pillow, dragging her down into darkness. Emma woke to sunlight streaming through the window and sat up with a gasp. Sunlight. But vampires. She stumbled out of bed and peered through the glass. The garden below was bathed in golden morning light, flowers blooming in riotous colors. The window faced east, and the sun was rising over distant buildings that looked like they belonged to the city above. "The glass is treated," Eryx's voice said from behind her, and Emma spun. He stood in the doorway, dressed in dark trousers and a white shirt, his hair pulled back from his face. He looked softer in daylight, less intimidating. "It filters the harmful wavelengths. We can have windows and light without the danger." "You can't go outside, though," Emma said. "Not during the day, no. Sunlight is still our enemy in direct exposure. But here, we can have the illusion of normalcy." He moved into the room, carrying a garment bag. "I brought you something to wear. We have much to do today." Emma took the bag warily. "What kind of much?" "You need to meet the council formally, and I want to show you more of our world, help you understand what you've agreed to." Eryx's expression softened. "How are you feeling? Did you sleep?" "Like the dead," Emma said, then winced. "Sorry. Poor choice of words." Eryx laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "I am not offended, and I am glad you rested. You will need your strength today. Emma unzipped the garment bag to find a dress in deep emerald green, the fabric some kind of heavy silk that shimmered when she moved it. It was beautiful, elegant, and probably cost more than she'd earned in the last 6 months. I can't wear this, she said automatically. Why not? Because I'll ruin it. Because I don't know how to wear things like this. Because, Emma's voice cracked. Because I'm a temp worker from a studio apartment, Eryx. I don't belong in clothes like this. Eryx crossed to her in 2 strides and took her face in his hands, tilting her head up. His eyes were bright and fierce. Listen to me, Emma. You belong wherever you choose to be. This dress is cloth and thread. It has no power over you. You give it meaning by wearing it, not the other way around. And if you ruin it, we will get another. Do you understand? Emma's breath shook. You really believe that, don't you? That I belong here? I do. And soon, you will believe it too. He released her gently. Get dressed. I will wait outside. The dress fit perfectly, which should have been impossible since Emma hadn't been measured. But when she looked at herself in the mirror, she barely recognized the woman staring back. The green brought out the color in her eyes and made her brown hair look richer, less mousy. The cut was simple but elegant, emphasizing her figure without being revealing. She looked like someone who could be a queen. Almost. Eryx's expression when she emerged was gratifying, his eyes widening just slightly before he schooled his features. Beautiful, he said quietly. Emma flushed. It's the dress. It is you. Eryx offered his arm. Come. The council awaits. The council chamber was a circular room with a domed ceiling painted with stars. 12 chairs were arranged in a semicircle, each occupied by a vampire who looked ancient and powerful. They watched Emma enter with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. Eryx led her to a 13th chair, positioned at the center of the semicircle, and gestured for her to sit. Emma's legs felt weak, but she forced herself to walk steadily, to sit with her back straight and her hands folded in her lap. Eryx remained standing beside her, one hand resting on the back of her chair. This is Emma Greyson, he said, his voice carrying through the chamber. As of last night, she is my chosen queen. I present her to you now for formal recognition. The woman with the braided hair, who Emma now realized must be someone important, stood. My lord, the council has deliberated through the night. We acknowledge your choice, but we cannot recognize it formally. The law is explicit. A queen must be of noble blood. To change this law requires a unanimous vote from the council, which we cannot provide. Then we will change the law, Eryx said flatly. It is not that simple. Another council member spoke up, a man with a long white beard. The law exists to preserve our strength. Noble bloodlines carry power, magic that has been cultivated over generations. A commoner brings nothing but weakness. Emma brings compassion and humanity, which are far rarer than magic, Eryx shot back, and far more valuable. So you say, but where is the proof? The scarred vampire from last night leaned forward. She has done nothing yet to prove herself worthy. For all we know, she gave that bread out of foolishness, not kindness. Emma felt her temper flare. Before she could stop herself, she stood. Excuse me, but I'm sitting right here. If you have questions about my motivations, you could ask me directly instead of talking around me like I'm a piece of furniture. The chamber went silent. Several vampires stared at her in shock. Eryx's hand tightened on the chair, but he said nothing. The woman with the braided hair's lips twitched. Very well. Why did you give the child your bread? Because she was hungry and I had food. It's not complicated. But it was your only food. So? She was a child. Children come first. Emma crossed her arms. Look, I don't know anything about vampire politics or noble bloodlines or whatever else you all care about, but I know that when you see someone suffering and you have the power to help, you help. That's it. That's the whole moral code. And if your laws say differently, then your laws are wrong. The bearded vampire's eyebrows shot up. You dare to call our laws wrong? If they prevent basic decency, then yes. Emma's heart hammered, but she kept her voice steady. Eryx told me I'm here to bring heart to this court. Well, here it is. You want proof I'm worthy? I'm not going to perform for you or jump through hoops. Either you believe that kindness matters or you don't. And if you don't, then I don't want to be part of your court anyway. Eryx made a low sound that might have been a laugh. The council members exchanged glances, some looking outraged, others thoughtful. She has spirit, the woman with the braided hair said finally. I will grant her that. Spirit is not the same as worthiness, the scarred vampire countered. My lord, I propose a trial. Let her prove herself through the traditional tests. If she succeeds, we will accept her. If she fails, she returns to the human world and we speak no more of commoner queens. Eryx's face darkened. No, I will not subject her to— I'll do it, Emma interrupted. She looked up at Eryx, whose expression had gone stony. What are these tests? They are designed to break those who are unworthy, the woman with the braided hair said quietly. 3 trials, each more difficult than the last. They test the mind, the body, and the spirit. Many nobles have failed them, Emma, and they were raised understanding our ways. But if I pass, the council will accept me. If you pass, we will have no choice but to accept you, the bearded vampire said. The trials are sacred. To succeed is to prove yourself beyond question. Emma turned to Eryx. His jaw was clenched, his eyes blazing. Emma, you do not have to do this. I can fight the council. I can force them to— You can't force them to respect me, Emma said softly. And I can't be your queen if no one respects me. I have to do this, Eryx, for both of us. For a long moment he stared at her, and Emma saw something fierce and protective and almost desperate in his gaze. Then, slowly, he nodded. Very well. But I will be present for each trial, and if I judge that she is in true danger, I will end it, regardless of tradition. Agreed, the woman with the braided hair said. The trials will begin tomorrow at sunset. Emma Greyson, you have 1 day to prepare. Use it wisely. The council dismissed, and Eryx led Emma from the chamber in silence. His hand was tight on her arm, not painfully, but firmly, like he was afraid she might disappear. When they were alone in the corridor, he stopped and turned to face her. That was reckless, he said, his voice low. That was necessary, Emma countered. They were never going to accept me otherwise. You saw their faces. I saw their contempt, and I saw you standing alone against them, defending yourself with nothing but words and will. Eryx's hands came up to frame her face, his touch gentle despite the intensity in his eyes. You are braver than I expected, braver than you know. But Emma, these trials are dangerous. They are meant to break people. I do not want to see you hurt. Then help me prepare, Emma said. You have a day. Teach me what I need to know. Eryx's expression softened. You asked me to train you in 1 day for trials that vampires spend years preparing for. I'm asking you to give me a fighting chance. He stared at her for a long moment, then leaned down and pressed his forehead to hers. The gesture was intimate, tender, and it made Emma's breath catch. I will give you everything I have, Eryx whispered, and I will pray it is enough. They spent the rest of the day in the estate's library, a vast room lined with books from floor to ceiling. Eryx explained the history of the vampire courts, the ancient laws, the power structures that governed their world. He told her about the great houses, the noble families who had ruled for centuries, and the delicate balance of alliances that kept their society functioning. Emma's head spun with information. There were so many names, so many rules, so many traditions that seemed arcane and arbitrary. But she forced herself to focus, to memorize what she could. She asked questions until Eryx's answers started to blur together, and even then she pushed for more. The first trial will test your mind, Eryx explained as the hours wore on. They will present you with an impossible problem, likely a political scenario with no clear solution. You must find a path through it that satisfies the court's expectations. What are their expectations? That is the trick. They will not tell you. You must discern it from context, from understanding the personalities involved. Eryx paced the library, his hands clasped behind his back. The second trial will be physical. They may ask you to navigate a dangerous environment or survive something that would kill a normal human. That one concerns me most because your human limitations are real. What about the third trial? Eryx stopped pacing. The third trial is the spirit. They will attempt to break your will, to make you doubt yourself or your purpose. It is the cruelest of the three, because it attacks who you are at your core. Emma swallowed hard. What do I do if they succeed? If I can't solve the problem or survive the physical challenge or resist the spiritual attack? Then you fail, and they send you home. Eryx's voice was quiet. And I will have to find another way to change the laws. But Emma, I do not want you to do this out of obligation. If you wish to walk away now, I will not hold it against you. I'm not walking away. Emma stood and crossed to him, looking up into his silver eyes. I don't fully understand why you think I'm so special, Eryx. But I know that if I leave now, I'll always wonder if I could have done it. And I'll always regret not trying. So I'm staying. I'm going to face these trials, and I'm going to pass them. Eryx's hands came up to cup her face, his thumbs stroking across her cheekbones. You are special because you do not see it, he murmured. Because you think giving away your last meal is simply what anyone would do. You underestimate your own heart, Emma. But I do not. And tomorrow, I will make certain the council does not either. He kissed her forehead, the touch light and reverent, and Emma felt something warm unfurl in her chest. This man, this impossibly ancient vampire king, looked at her like she mattered, like she was worth protecting and defending and cherishing. It had been so long since anyone had looked at her that way. Tell me about Mira, Emma said softly. How did you really find her? Eryx's expression darkened. Her village was attacked by hunters, humans who believe all vampires are monsters that must be destroyed. They do not discriminate between those who hunt humans and those who live peacefully. Mira's parents were scholars, gentle people who had never harmed anyone. But the hunters burned their home and killed everyone inside. Mira survived because she was small enough to hide in the cellar. That's horrible. It is the reality of our world. Humans fear us, and that fear makes them cruel. Eryx's jaw tightened. I found Mira in the ruins 3 days later, half-starved and traumatized. She did not speak for months. But slowly, with care and patience, she began to heal. She is bright and curious and kind, despite everything she has suffered. She deserves better than a world that tried to kill her for existing. Emma's heart ached. Is that why you sent her to test humans? To see if any of us were better than the hunters? Partially, but also because I needed to know if the gap between our species could be bridged, if humans and vampires could coexist with genuine kindness rather than fear. You proved it was possible. Eryx looked down at her, his eyes soft. You gave her bread without knowing what she was. That is the future I want, Emma. A world where it does not matter whether someone is human or vampire, only whether they need help. That's a beautiful dream. It is the only dream worth having. Eryx stepped back, his expression turning businesslike. But dreams require action, and right now you need rest. Tomorrow will be difficult, and you must be at your best. Emma wanted to protest, to keep studying, but exhaustion dragged at her limbs. She nodded and let Eryx guide her back to her suite. At the door, he paused. Emma, he said quietly, whatever happens tomorrow, know this. I chose you, not because I needed a queen, but because I wanted you beside me. That will not change, regardless of the trial's outcome. Thank you, Emma whispered, for believing in me, even if I don't believe in myself yet. You will. Eryx's smile was small but genuine. Give it time. He left her then, and Emma crawled into bed with her mind spinning. She thought of Mira in the rain, of Eryx's silver eyes, of the council's cold stares. She thought of the trials waiting for her, impossible challenges designed to break her. She should be terrified. She was terrified. But underneath the fear, there was something else. A stubborn determination that had gotten her through her mother's illness and the mountain of debt and the soul-crushing job. She had survived worse than vampire politics. She could survive this too. Emma closed her eyes and slept. The next evening, the council reconvened in a different chamber, this one darker and more oppressive. Torches lined the walls, casting flickering shadows, and the air smelled of old stone and something bitter Emma couldn't identify. The 12 council members sat in their chairs watching as Eryx led Emma to the center of the room. "The first trial begins now," the woman with the braided hair announced. Her name was Seraphine, Emma had learned. She was the eldest of the council, over 1,000 years old, and one of the few who seemed more curious than hostile. "Emma Greyson, you will be presented with a scenario. You must navigate it to the satisfaction of the council. You may ask questions, but choose them wisely. You have 1 hour." A projection appeared in the air before Emma, shimmering like a hologram. It showed 2 vampire houses, their emblems displayed prominently. House Corvin and House Devereux have been allies for 3 centuries, Seraphine explained. But a recent trade dispute has driven them to the brink of war. House Corvin claims House Devereux violated an ancient contract. House Devereux claims the contract was nullified by changing circumstances. Both houses have called upon you as queen to mediate. How do you proceed? Emma stared at the projection, her mind racing. She knew nothing about these houses, nothing about vampire trade law, nothing about the history between them. This was impossible. Except it wasn't. She took a breath and forced herself to think. What was the contract about? The trade of blood wine, a rare vintage that requires human cooperation to produce, Seraphine answered. House Corvin provided the grapes. House Devereux provided the humans willing to donate blood for the fermentation process. They split the profits evenly. What changed? The human city where House Devereux sourced their donors passed a law banning blood donation to vampires. House Devereux claims this makes the contract impossible to fulfill. House Corvin claims House Devereux should have found alternative sources. Emma thought hard. Can I speak to representatives from both houses? No. You must make your judgment based on the information provided. Then I need to understand the contract language. Does it specify that donors must come from that particular city? Seraphine's eyebrows rose. No. It specifies only that donors must be willing and fairly compensated. Then House Devereux should have found alternative sources, Emma said slowly. The contract isn't impossible to fulfill, just more difficult. But I also think House Corvin is being unreasonable. Laws change, circumstances change. A good partnership adapts. So what is your judgment? The scarred vampire asked. Emma took a breath. I would rule that House Devereux must fulfill the contract, but I would also require House Corvin to provide resources to help them find new donors. They're supposed to be allies. That means supporting each other through difficulties, not abandoning each other the moment things get hard. And going forward, I'd suggest they revise the contract to include provisions for changed circumstances so this doesn't happen again. The council members exchanged glances. Seraphine leaned forward. You split the responsibility. Interesting. Most would have chosen one side or the other. Most would have been wrong, Emma said. This isn't about who's right or wrong. It's about preserving an alliance. If I side completely with one house, the other will feel betrayed, and the alliance breaks anyway. This way, both houses have to give a little, but both houses also get something, and their relationship survives. The bearded vampire stroked his chin. She understands the purpose of mediation. I did not expect that. Nor did I, Seraphine admitted. She looked at Emma with something that might have been respect. You passed the first trial, Emma Greyson. Well done. Relief flooded through Emma so strongly her knees almost buckled. Eryx's hand found hers, squeezing gently. One down, he murmured. The second trial will take place in the Undergarden, Seraphine announced. You have 10 minutes to prepare. Eryx led Emma from the chamber quickly, his face set. The Undergarden is a labyrinth beneath the estate, he explained as they walked. It is dark, confusing, and filled with traps designed to disorient and harm. You must find your way through to the exit on the other side. I will not be allowed to help you once you enter. What kind of traps? Pitfalls, false passages, illusions that make you doubt your senses, and creatures. The council keeps certain beasts in the garden to test physical prowess. Eryx stopped and gripped her shoulders. Listen to me carefully. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Do not take unnecessary risks. And if you encounter a creature, do not try to fight it. Run. Your speed will be your greatest asset. I'm not exactly an athlete, Eryx. You are stronger than you think, and you have something most vampires lack. Survival instinct born of hardship. Use it. He pressed something into her hand. A small knife, the blade glinting in the torchlight. Take this, for emergencies only. Emma pocketed the knife with shaking hands. What if I get lost? What if I can't find the exit? You will find it, because you are clever and determined and you do not give up. Eryx cupped her face, his eyes burning into hers. I believe in you, Emma. Hold on to that. The undergarden entrance was a stone archway carved with symbols Emma didn't recognize. Beyond it, darkness waited, thick and impenetrable. The council stood to one side, watching as Emma approached. Seraphine stepped forward and handed her a torch. The exit is marked with a silver door, she said. Find it before the torch burns out and you pass. Fail, and you remain in the darkness until we retrieve you. The trial begins when you cross the threshold. Emma looked back at Eryx one last time. He stood rigid, his hands clenched into fists, every line of his body radiating tension. Their eyes met, and Emma saw fear there. Real, genuine fear. For her. It gave her courage. If he believed she could do this, then maybe she could. Emma stepped through the archway. The darkness swallowed her immediately, thick and oppressive. The torch provided a small circle of light, but beyond it, Emma could see nothing. She took a cautious step forward, then another, her free hand trailing along the wall for guidance. The stone was cold and slightly damp, and the air smelled of earth and something metallic. The passage forked ahead. Emma stopped, considering. Left or right? There was no indication which way led to the exit. She closed her eyes and thought. Labyrinths typically had a logic to them, a pattern. If she could find it, she could navigate through. She chose left and walked carefully, counting her steps. The passage twisted and turned, branching multiple times. Emma tried to keep a mental map, but it was difficult in the darkness with only the torch for reference. She marked her path by dragging the knife against the wall occasionally, leaving small scratches she could find again if she had to backtrack. A sound echoed behind her, low and guttural. Emma froze, her heart hammering. Footsteps, heavy ones. Something large was in the labyrinth with her. She started walking faster, the torch flame dancing wildly. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Emma broke into a run, the knife clutched in one hand and the torch in the other. The passage narrowed, forcing her to turn sideways, and then it opened into a wider chamber. In the center of the chamber, something moved. Emma raised the torch and saw it, a creature like nothing she'd ever imagined. It was vaguely humanoid but twisted, its limbs too long, its face a mass of teeth and empty eyes. It crouched over something Emma couldn't see, its head snapping up when her torchlight hit it. For a moment, they stared at each other. Then the creature lunged. Emma dove to the side, hitting the ground hard. The torch flew from her hand and rolled across the stone floor, its light spinning crazily. Emma scrambled after it, grabbing the handle just as the creature's claws raked the air where she'd been. She swung the torch at it, and the flames caught its arm. It shrieked and recoiled. Fire. It was afraid of fire. Emma held the torch out like a weapon, backing toward the far side of the chamber. The creature followed but kept its distance, hissing and snapping. Emma's eyes searched frantically for an exit and found it. Another passage, half hidden behind a pillar. She ran for it, the creature pursuing. It was faster than her, its elongated limbs eating up the distance, but Emma had the torch. Every time it got too close, she swung the flames at it, driving it back. Her lungs burned, her legs screamed, but she didn't stop. The passage ahead brightened. Emma burst through into another chamber and saw it. A silver door set into the far wall, gleaming in the torchlight. The exit. The creature was right behind her. Emma could hear its breath, feel the displacement of air as it reached for her. She threw herself forward, hit the door with her shoulder, and crashed through into light. She lay on stone floor, gasping, the torch sputtering beside her. Hands lifted her gently, and Emma looked up into Eryx's face. His expression was stark, his eyes wide. "You did it," he breathed. "Emma, you did it." The council stood in a semicircle, their faces varying degrees of impressed and displeased. Seraphine stepped forward and helped Emma to her feet. "You passed the second trial," she said quietly, "and you have my respect, human. That creature has killed 3 nobles who attempted the garden. You are the first in a decade to escape it alive." Emma's legs shook. "There's a third trial." "Tomorrow," Seraphine said firmly, glancing at Eryx's murderous expression. "She needs rest and healing. The third trial can wait." For once, no one argued. Eryx swept Emma into his arms and carried her from the chamber, ignoring her weak protests. He took her to her suite and set her down gently on the bed, then knelt beside her, his hands running over her arms and shoulders, checking for injuries. "I'm okay," Emma managed. "Bruised, but okay." "You could have been killed." Eryx's voice was raw. "I should never have allowed this. I should have refused the trials and fought the council myself. But then you'd be fighting them forever, and so would I." Emma caught his hands, stilling them. "Eryx, I survived. I passed 2 trials. 1 more and this is over." "The third trial is the worst," Eryx said harshly. "It will tear at your mind, your sense of self. Emma, it may show you things that break you. Then you'll put me back together." Emma squeezed his hands. "I'm not giving up now, not when I'm this close." Eryx stared at her for a long moment, then leaned forward and rested his forehead against hers. "You are extraordinary," he whispered. "I did not know humans could be so strong. We're pretty resilient when we need to be." Emma closed her eyes, exhaustion pulling at her. "Stay with me tonight. Please. I don't want to be alone." She felt Eryx tense, then relax. "I will stay as long as you need." He climbed onto the bed beside her, still fully clothed, and pulled her into his arms. Emma curled against his chest, feeling his heartbeat steady and slow beneath her ear. It should have been strange, sleeping beside a man she barely knew, but somehow it felt right, safe, like coming home after a long journey. "Tell me about your world," Emma murmured, already half asleep. "Before you were king, what was your life like?" Eryx's hand stroked through her hair, gentle and soothing. "I was a soldier once, in an age when vampires fought each other for territory and power. I was good at killing, and I was rewarded for it with rank and responsibility. Eventually, I became king through a combination of strength and circumstance. But Emma, I have never enjoyed the violence. I have always wanted something else. Peace, purpose, someone to share the burden of rule with." "Is that why you never took a queen before?" "I never found anyone who made me want to," Eryx admitted. "I have lived 8 centuries surrounded by beautiful, powerful people. But beauty and power do not make a partnership. I needed someone who understood suffering and still chose kindness. Someone who knew what it was to have nothing and still gave everything away. I needed you, Emma. I simply did not know it until I saw you in the rain, handing bread to a child without a moment's hesitation." Emma's throat tightened. "I'm not special, Eryx. I'm just me. Just you is more than enough." Eryx's arms tightened around her. "Sleep now. Tomorrow, we finish this." Emma slept deeply, dreamlessly, wrapped in Eryx's warmth. When she woke, dawnlight filtered through the windows, and Eryx was still there, his eyes closed, looking almost human in his stillness. She watched him for a moment, marveling at the sharp lines of his face, the way his white hair spilled across the pillow. He opened his eyes and caught her staring. "Good morning," he murmured. "Morning?" Emma flushed. "Sorry, I didn't mean to wake you." "I was not truly asleep. Vampires do not sleep as humans do. We rest, but we remain aware." Eryx sat up slowly, his hand finding hers. "How do you feel?" "Nervous, scared, determined." Emma took a breath. Ready, I think. The third trial will take place in your mind, Eryx said. The council will use magic to place you in a waking dream. You will experience things that seem real but are not. You must remember that no matter what you see, it is not real. Hold on to that truth, and you will survive. What if I forget? What if the dream is too convincing? Then I will be there to remind you. Eryx's eyes were fierce. I insisted on being present for this trial. I will be able to speak to you, though I cannot interfere with the magic itself. Listen for my voice, Emma. Let it anchor you. They prepared in silence, Emma dressing in another simple gown, this one black. It felt like armor, the dark fabric heavy and protective. Eryx stayed close, his presence a steady comfort. When they entered the trial chamber, Emma's resolve nearly faltered. The room was circular, the walls carved with intricate symbols that seemed to writhe in the torchlight. The council stood in a ring around a single chair positioned at the center. Seraphine gestured for Emma to sit. The third trial tests your spirit, she said as Emma lowered herself into the chair. We will show you your deepest fears, your worst failures, your most painful memories. If you can endure them and emerge with your sense of self intact, you will have proven yourself worthy beyond all doubt. But Emma, I warn you, many who take this trial do not emerge unchanged. Be prepared for what you may see. I'm ready, Emma said, though her hands shook. Eryx positioned himself directly in front of her chair, close enough that she could see every detail of his face. Look at me, he commanded softly. When the magic begins, when the visions come, find my voice, find me. I will not let you fall. The council began to chant, their voices blending into an eerie harmony. The symbols on the walls glowed, pulsing in time with the words. Emma felt something cold slide into her mind, a presence that was not her own. She gasped, and then the world shifted. She was in her mother's hospital room. The machines beeped rhythmically, and her mother lay in the bed, gray-skinned and wasted. Emma knew this moment. She had lived it 6 months ago, sitting beside her mother as she died. "Emma," her mother rasped, her eyes opening. "Why didn't you save me?" Emma's breath caught. "Mom, I tried. I did everything I could. You could have paid for the treatments. You could have worked harder, found more money. But you were selfish. You let me die because it was easier than fighting." Her mother's voice turned bitter. "You failed me, just like you fail at everything." Tears streamed down Emma's face. "That's not true. I couldn't, there was no way. You're weak. You've always been weak." Her mother's form began to decay, skin sloughing off to reveal bone beneath. "And now you think you can be a queen? You can't even take care of yourself. You're pathetic." "Emma." Eryx's voice cut through the horror, distant but clear. "This is not real. Your mother loved you. She never said these things. Fight the illusion." Emma closed her eyes, clinging to the sound of his voice. "Not real," she whispered. "Not real." The hospital room dissolved. Emma stood in her apartment. But it was different. Larger. Cleaner. She looked down at herself and saw expensive clothes, jewelry glittering on her wrists. A mirror hung on the wall, and her reflection stared back, cold and haughty. "You've changed," a voice said. Mira stood in the doorway, her small face accusing. "You used to be kind, but now you're just like them, cold, selfish. You forgot where you came from." "No," Emma protested. "I didn't forget. I would never. You gave me bread because you had nothing to lose, but now you have everything. Would you still help me, or would you walk past like everyone else?" Mira's eyes filled with tears. "You're not the person I thought you were." Emma's heart shattered. "Mira, please. I'm still me. I haven't changed." "Lies," Mira whispered and disappeared. "Emma, listen to me." Eryx's voice was stronger now, closer. "This is a test. The trial is showing you your fears. You fear becoming someone you're not, but that fear proves you haven't changed. The very fact that you're horrified by this vision means you are still you. Hold on to that." Emma opened her eyes and the apartment vanished. She stood in the vampire court, but it was wrong. The vampires stared at her with open hostility, and Eryx stood among them, his expression distant and cold. "Did you really think I cared for you?" he asked, his voice cutting. "You were a test, Emma. A game. I wanted to see if a human could survive in our world. You passed the trials, congratulations, but you mean nothing to me. You're just a human, temporary, forgettable." "No," Emma said, but her voice was small. "You said you told me. I lied." Eryx's smile was cruel. "Did you truly believe a vampire king would want a commoner, a nobody? You were entertaining for a while, but now you're simply tedious. Go back to your human world, Emma. You don't belong here." The other vampires laughed, the sound echoing and vicious. Emma felt herself breaking, felt the pain radiating through her chest like a physical wound. She sank to her knees, sobbing. "Emma." Eryx's real voice cut through, desperate now. "That is not me. I would never say those things. You know me. You know what we have built together. Do not let the illusion win. Fight!" Emma gasped, her vision blurring. Two Eryxes stood before her now, the cold, cruel one from the vision, and the real one, his face anguished, his hands reaching for her though he could not touch her. "I chose you because I love you," the real Eryx said, his voice breaking. "I love your kindness, your strength, your courage. I love the way you see the world, the way you refuse to give up no matter how hard things become. You are not temporary or forgettable. You are everything I have been searching for. Please, Emma, believe me. Believe in us." Love. He loved her. Emma focused on the real Eryx, on the pain in his eyes, the desperation in his voice. That was real. The cruelty was false, a trick of magic. She knew him. She knew he would never hurt her like this. "I believe you," she whispered. The vision shattered. Emma found herself back in the trial chamber, still sitting in the chair, her face wet with tears. Eryx knelt before her, his hands gripping hers so tightly it almost hurt. His eyes were wide, frantic. "Emma," he breathed, "are you with me?" "I'm here." Emma's voice was hoarse. "I'm okay. I passed, didn't I?" Seraphine stepped forward, her expression grave. "You passed. Few have endured the third trial with their spirit intact. You have proven yourself, Emma Greyson. The council accepts you." The other council members nodded, some reluctant, others more willing. The scarred vampire inclined his head. "You have earned your place, human. I will not question your worthiness again." Emma barely heard them. She was staring at Eryx, at the raw emotion on his face. "You said you loved me." "I do." Eryx's voice was fierce. "I did not mean to say it like that in the middle of a trial. But Emma, I have loved you since the moment you gave away your bread without a second thought. I love your heart, your spirit, everything you are. And if you do not feel the same, I understand. This has all been so fast, so overwhelming. But I needed you to know. I needed you to hear the truth." Emma's hands came up to frame his face, her thumbs tracing the sharp lines of his cheekbones. "I think I'm falling in love with you too," she whispered. "I don't know how it's possible. We've only known each other a few days. But Eryx, when I was in that illusion, the only thing that kept me grounded was you. Your voice, your presence, the knowledge that you were real and that what we're building together matters." Eryx made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. He pulled her from the chair and into his arms, holding her so tightly Emma could barely breathe. "I will never let anyone hurt you again," he murmured against her hair. "I will spend every day proving that you belong at my side. You are my queen, Emma, in every way that matters." The council cleared their throats, politely reminding them they had an audience. Emma pulled back, flushing, and Eryx helped her stand. Seraphine approached, holding a circlet of silver set with a single dark gem. "This is the crown of the queen," she said formally. "It has not been worn in 3 centuries. But it is yours now, Emma Greyson. You have earned it." She placed the circlet on Emma's head. It was surprisingly light, cool against her skin. Emma reached up to touch it, half expecting it to vanish. "The formal coronation will be held in 3 days," Seraphine continued. It will be a grand affair, with all the noble houses in attendance. You must be prepared to present yourself to the entire court, to accept oaths of fealty, to take your place as our queen in truth." "I'll be ready," Emma said, more confidently than she felt. The council dismissed, and Eryx led Emma from the chamber. They walked through the estate in silence, his arm around her waist, her head resting against his shoulder. Emma felt drained, hollowed out by the trials, but also strangely elated. She had done it. She had passed. "What happens now?" she asked as they reached her suite. "Now, you rest, and then we prepare for the coronation." Eryx guided her inside and sat her down on the bed. "But Emma, there is something you should know. The trials may have convinced the council, but not all the noble houses will be pleased. Some will see you as a threat, an outsider who does not understand our ways. You must be careful. Watch what you say, who you trust." "Are you saying I'm in danger?" "I am saying that politics are always dangerous, and you have just become a major player." Eryx sat beside her, his expression serious. "But I will protect you. I will not let anyone harm you. I swear it." Emma leaned against him, exhaustion pulling at her. "I trust you." "That is either very wise or very foolish," Eryx said, a hint of humor in his voice. "I have not decided which." "Both, probably." Emma closed her eyes. "Eryx, when the illusion showed me that fake version of you, the one who said cruel things, I knew it wasn't real, because the real you would never try to break me. You've spent every moment since we met building me up, making me believe in myself. That's how I knew the difference." Eryx's arms tightened around her. "You undo me, Emma. You make me want to be worthy of the faith you place in me." "You already are." They sat in silence for a while, wrapped in each other's presence. Eventually, Eryx coaxed Emma to eat and rest, promising to return in the evening. Emma slept fitfully, her dreams full of silver eyes and shadowy trials, but when she woke, she felt stronger, clearer. The worst was over. Now she just had to survive the coronation. The next 3 days passed in a blur of preparation. Emma was fitted for gowns, instructed in court etiquette, and introduced to dozens of vampires whose names she struggled to remember. Eryx was with her every moment he could spare, coaching her gently, correcting her missteps with patience. Mira visited often, chattering about the coronation and how excited she was to see Emma officially crowned. "You'll be the most beautiful queen ever," Mira declared, sitting on Emma's bed while a seamstress adjusted the hem of her coronation gown. "And everyone will love you, because you're good and kind and you don't act like you're better than everyone else." "I'm not better than everyone else," Emma said, wincing as a pin pricked her ankle. "But you are," Mira insisted. "You could have said no when Eryx asked you to be queen. You could have gone back to your old life, but you stayed. You fought. That makes you braver than most people I know." Emma's heart squeezed. "Thank you, Mira. That means a lot." The night before the coronation, Eryx took Emma to a part of the estate she'd never seen before. A rooftop garden open to the stars. It was past midnight, the city lights glittering below them, and the air was cool and clean. Eryx led her to a bench and sat, pulling her down beside him. "I wanted you to see this," he said quietly. "This is my favorite place in the estate. I come here when I need to think, to remember why I do what I do." "It's beautiful," Emma breathed, staring up at the stars. "Ruling is difficult," Eryx said. "It requires making choices that hurt people, that sacrifice the few for the many. I have made countless such choices over the centuries, and each one has taken something from me. But up here, I can remember that there is beauty in the world, that not everything is politics and power, that some things are simply good." Emma looked at him. "Like what?" "Like you." Eryx turned to her, his eyes soft. "Like the fact that a woman with nothing gave her last meal to a stranger. Like the fact that kindness still exists, even in the darkest places. You remind me why I fight, Emma. Why I keep trying to make our world better." "No pressure, then," Emma said wryly, but her throat was tight. Eryx laughed. "I do not mean to burden you. only to tell you that you have given me something I thought I had lost. Hope. And tomorrow, when you are crowned, that hope becomes real. You become a symbol of what our world could be, human and vampire, standing together. It is revolutionary, Emma, and I could not be more proud. Emma turned to face him fully, her hands finding his. I'm scared, Eryx. What if I mess this up? What if I say the wrong thing or offend someone important, or then we will handle it together? Eryx interrupted gently. Emma, you do not have to be perfect. You only have to be yourself. That is all I ask. That is all anyone should ask. You make it sound so simple. It is simple. Humans complicate it with expectations and fear. But at its core, being a queen is about serving your people. You already know how to do that. You have been doing it your whole life. Eryx leaned forward and kissed her forehead. Tomorrow, the world will see what I have known from the beginning, that you are extraordinary. Emma's eyes stung. I love you, she whispered. I know it's fast and probably crazy, but I do. I love you. Eryx's smile was radiant. I love you too, Emma Greyson, more than I have words to express. He kissed her then, soft and reverent, and Emma felt the last of her doubts dissolve. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The coronation dawned bright and clear, sunlight streaming through the treated windows. Emma woke early, too nervous to sleep, and spent the morning being primped and prepared. The gown was a masterpiece, deep blue velvet embroidered with silver thread that caught the light with every movement. Her hair was styled in an intricate updo, and the circlet Seraphine had given her rested on her brow. When Emma looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked regal, powerful, like someone who belonged in a palace. It was surreal. You look perfect, Mira said from the doorway, her eyes wide. She wore a white dress, her dark hair loose around her shoulders. Eryx is going to lose his mind when he sees you. Emma laughed shakily. That's the goal, I guess. The coronation took place in the great hall, which had been transformed into something out of a fairy tale. Flowers and candles covered every surface, and the air shimmered with magic. Hundreds of vampires filled the space, all dressed in their finest, their white hair and pale skin making them look like a gathering of ghosts. Emma's entrance was announced by a trumpet fanfare, and she walked down the aisle on trembling legs, her eyes fixed on Eryx. He stood at the far end of the hall, dressed in black and silver, his hair loose around his shoulders. When he saw her, his expression transformed into something so tender and awed that Emma felt tears prick her eyes. The ceremony itself was long and complex, full of vows and rituals Emma barely understood. But when Seraphine placed the formal crown on her head, heavier and more ornate than the circlet, and declared her queen before the assembled court, Emma felt something shift inside her. This was real. She was really doing this. The vampires knelt, one by one, pledging their loyalty. Emma accepted each oath with as much grace as she could muster, her voice steady despite her nerves. And when it was done, when the last vampire had risen and returned to their place, Eryx took her hand and kissed it. My queen, he said, his voice carrying through the hall. My heart, welcome home. The court erupted into applause, and Emma let herself smile, let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she really did belong here. The feast afterward was overwhelming. Emma sat beside Eryx at the head table, picking at food she was too nervous to eat, while vampire after vampire approached to offer congratulations or thinly veiled warnings. Eryx fielded the worst of them with practiced ease, his hand never leaving hers. Midway through the feast, Mira appeared, tugging on Emma's sleeve. Can I talk to you? She whispered. Emma glanced at Eryx, who nodded. She followed Mira to a quieter corner of the hall, away from the crowd. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Mira's smile was bright. I just wanted to say thank you for everything. Because of you, Eryx is happier than I've ever seen him, and because of you, I have a home where I feel safe. You changed everything, Emma, for both of us. Emma knelt down so she was eye level with the girl. You changed everything for me too, Mira. If you hadn't been there that night, If you hadn't needed help, I'd still be in my apartment, struggling to make rent, thinking I was alone. But now I have this. I have Eryx, and I have you. So thank you." Mira threw her arms around Emma's neck, hugging her fiercely. Emma hugged her back, blinking away tears. When they pulled apart, Mira was grinning. "Come on," she said, grabbing Emma's hand. "They're about to start the dancing. Eryx said I get the first dance with you before he does." Emma laughed and let Mira drag her back to the hall. True to her word, the music started, and Mira pulled Emma onto the floor. They danced together, spinning and laughing, and the court watched with expressions ranging from amused to scandalized. Emma didn't care. This was joy, pure and simple, and she was going to hold on to it. When the song ended, Eryx appeared at her side. "My turn," he said, extending his hand. Emma took it, and he swept her into a waltz. He moved with inhuman grace, leading her effortlessly through the steps. Emma focused on keeping up, trying not to trip over her own feet. "You're doing beautifully," Eryx murmured. "Stop worrying." "I'm not worrying. Much." "Liar." His smile was fond. "Emma, look around. Look at what you have accomplished. The court is united. The noble houses are here to honor you, and even the council looks pleased. You did that. You won them over." Emma finally let herself look. The vampires weren't watching her with hostility anymore. Some looked curious, others impressed. Seraphine raised her glass in a small salute, and Emma returned it. "I couldn't have done it without you," Emma said softly. "We did it together," Eryx corrected. "As we will do everything from now on." The waltz ended, and Eryx led her off the floor. They returned to the head table, and the feast continued, but Emma's nerves had finally settled. She was beginning to believe that she could do this, that she could be the queen these people needed. As the night wore on, Emma noticed a commotion near the entrance. A vampire she didn't recognize was speaking urgently to one of the guards. Eryx tensed beside her, his eyes narrowing. "What is it?" Emma asked. "Wait here," Eryx said, rising. He crossed to the commotion, his movements predatory. Emma watched as he spoke to the guard and the stranger, his expression darkening with every word. When he returned, his face was grim. "We have a problem," he said quietly. "One of the noble houses, House Thorn, is refusing to acknowledge your coronation. They claim the trials were insufficient, that the council overstepped its authority. They are calling for a formal challenge." Emma's stomach dropped. "A challenge? What does that mean?" "It means they want to contest your right to the throne through combat or debate. It is an ancient law, rarely invoked but legally binding." Eryx's jaw clenched. "I will not allow it. I will fight them myself if necessary." "No," Emma said quickly. "If you fight for me, it proves their point, that I'm not strong enough to defend myself. I have to handle this. Emma, these are dangerous people. House Thorn has been a thorn in my side for decades. They will not play fair." "Then I'll have to be smarter than them." Emma stood, her mind racing. What are the rules of a formal challenge? Eryx looked like he wanted to argue, but Seraphine had appeared at his elbow. "The challenge party chooses the method," she said. "Combat or debate. If you choose combat, you may name a champion. If you choose debate, you must defend your position before the court." "Debate," Emma said immediately. "I'll debate them." "Emma." Eryx started, but she cut him off. "I can do this. I passed the trials. I can handle one debate." Seraphine looked thoughtful. "It is risky. House Thorn is known for twisting words and setting traps. But if you win, their challenge is ended forever. They cannot contest you again." "Then I'll win." Emma looked at Eryx, willing him to trust her. "Let me do this. Let me prove that I belong here, not just to them, but to myself." Eryx stared at her for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "Very well, but I will be at your side, and if they cross a line, I will end this, challenge or no challenge." The debate was scheduled for the next evening, giving Emma barely 24 hours to prepare. She spent the time with Eryx and Seraphine, learning everything she could about House Thorn and their likely arguments. The head of the house was a vampire named Thaddeus, ancient and cunning, known for his silver tongue and ruthless tactics. He will argue that commoners weaken the bloodline, Seraphine explained. That allowing you to be queen sets a dangerous precedent. He will question your knowledge, your strength, your worthiness. And how do I counter that? Emma asked. By turning his arguments back on him, Eryx said. He claims bloodlines matter. Point out that bloodlines did not save the noble houses from stagnation. He claims you lack knowledge. Remind him that you passed the trials designed for nobles. He claims you set a dangerous precedent. Argue that the precedent was already set when I sent Mira to test the humans, and you were the one who passed. Emma blinked. The beggar test, that's it. What do you mean? Seraphine asked. The test itself is a tradition, right? An ancient one? When Seraphine nodded, Emma continued, her excitement growing. So the tradition already acknowledges that commoners can prove their worth. The trials are just a formalization of what the beggar test already established. By passing both, I didn't break tradition. I fulfilled it. Eryx's eyes widened. That is brilliant. It is more than brilliant, Seraphine said slowly. It is legally sound. If you can argue that position convincingly, House Thorn has no ground to stand on. Emma spent the rest of the day refining her argument, practicing her delivery until Eryx declared her ready. When the evening came, she dressed in a simple but elegant gown and walked into the great hall with her head held high. House Thorn had gathered their allies, a cluster of vampires who watched Emma with cold eyes. Thaddeus stood at their center, tall and imposing, his white hair braided intricately. He smiled when Emma entered, but it was the smile of a predator. Lady Emma, he said, his voice smooth, how kind of you to indulge us. Lord Thaddeus, Emma replied evenly, I understand you have concerns about my coronation. Concerns is a mild word. I have objections, fundamental, legal objections. Thaddeus stepped forward, his gaze sweeping the assembled court. Our laws are clear. A queen must be of noble blood. This human, however charming, does not meet that requirement. Her coronation is invalid, and I call for it to be nullified. The court murmured, some in agreement, others in protest. Emma waited for the noise to die down, then spoke. You're right that our laws are clear, she said, but you're wrong about what they mean. The law states that a queen must prove her worth through trials of mind, body, and spirit. I have done that. But more importantly, I passed an older test, one that predates the formal trials. The beggar test, Thaddeus frowned. The beggar test is a formality, a symbolic gesture. No, Emma interrupted. It is a tradition that acknowledges commoners can prove themselves worthy of standing beside the king. By passing it, I fulfilled the oldest requirement of all, demonstrating genuine compassion and selflessness. The trials only confirmed what the beggar test already established. I am not breaking tradition, Lord Thaddeus. I am honoring it. The court erupted into conversation. Thaddeus's expression darkened. You twist words to suit your purpose. I clarify laws to reveal their true intent, Emma countered. You claim bloodlines matter, but bloodlines did not prevent our people from growing complacent and cold. You claim I lack knowledge, but I have studied your history and your laws, and I understand them well enough to stand here and debate you. And you claim I am a dangerous precedent, but the only danger I represent is to those who believe power should be hoarded rather than shared. Careful, girl, Thaddeus said softly. You speak of things you do not understand. I understand that you fear change, Emma said, her voice steady. I understand that my presence here challenges your worldview. But fear is not a reason to reject progress. If you truly care about our people, you will see that bringing humanity back into this court is not a weakness. It is a strength. Seraphine stepped forward. The council has reviewed Lady Emma's argument. We find it legally sound. The beggar test has always been a valid measure of worthiness. Combined with her successful completion of the formal trials, her claim to the title of queen is unassailable. Lord Thaddeus, your challenge is denied. Thaddeus's face twisted with rage, but he could say nothing. The law was on Emma's side. He bowed stiffly and retreated, his allies following. Emma let out a breath she hadn't known she was holding. Eryx was at her side in an instant, his hand finding hers. "You did it," he said, his voice full of pride. "Emma, you were magnificent." "I was terrified," Emma admitted. "But you did not let it stop you. That is what makes you a queen." The court applauded, and this time there was no hesitation, no reservation. Emma had proven herself beyond doubt. The days that followed were easier. The noble houses began to accept Emma, some grudgingly, others with genuine warmth. She threw herself into learning her new role, working alongside Eryx to address the court's concerns and bridge the gap between humans and vampires. It was exhausting, challenging work, but Emma had never felt more alive. Mira remained a constant presence, shadowing Emma during the day and chattering about everything and nothing. Emma found herself growing more attached to the girl, seeing her not just as Eryx's ward, but as someone she cared for deeply. When Eryx suggested formally adopting Mira, making her part of their family, Emma agreed without hesitation. "Are you sure?" Eryx asked. "It is a significant commitment." "I'm sure," Emma said firmly. "She's already part of our family in every way that matters. Let's make it official." The adoption ceremony was small and private, just Emma, Eryx, Mira, and Seraphine as a witness. When it was done, Mira threw herself into Emma's arms, crying happy tears. "I have a real family now," she whispered. "A real mom and dad." Emma's throat tightened. "You do, and we're never letting you go." Months passed. Emma grew into her role, her confidence blossoming under Eryx's steady support. The court began to seek her out for advice, valuing her perspective as someone who bridged both worlds. She worked with Eryx to establish new laws protecting both humans and vampires, fostering cooperation rather than fear. Their relationship deepened too. What had started as a whirlwind romance settled into something solid and enduring. Eryx was patient and attentive, always making sure Emma felt valued and heard. Emma, in turn, learned to navigate his world, to stand beside him as a true partner. One night, as they sat together in the rooftop garden, Eryx turned to her with an expression Emma couldn't read. "What is it?" she asked. "I have something for you." Eryx reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring, simple and elegant, with a dark stone that matched her coronation crown. "Emma Greyson, you are already my queen, but I would like you to be my wife as well. Will you marry me?" Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Eryx slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her, deep and tender. When they pulled apart, Emma was smiling so wide her face hurt. "I never thought I'd have this," she whispered. "A family, a home, someone who loves me." "You deserve all of it and more," Eryx said fiercely, "and I will spend the rest of my life making sure you know it." The wedding was held 3 months later, a grand affair that united the vampire and human worlds. Emma's old friends from the accounting firm attended, their eyes wide as they took in the opulence of the vampire estate. Emma hugged them fiercely, grateful they had been willing to step into her new world. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Emma wore a gown of white and silver, her hair crowned with flowers. Eryx looked devastating in formal black, his eyes never leaving hers as they exchanged vows. Mira stood between them, holding a bouquet and beaming with pride. "I promise to love you," Emma said, her voice steady despite the tears streaming down her face. "To stand beside you, to support you, to challenge you when you need it and comfort you when you hurt. I promise to be your partner in all things, for as long as we both shall live." "I promise to cherish you," Eryx said, his voice rough with emotion. "To protect you, to honor you, to never take for granted the gift of your presence in my life. You have given me hope, Emma. You have given me a future I did not know I wanted, and I will spend every day proving myself worthy of you." When they kissed, the court erupted into cheers. Emma laughed against Eryx's mouth, dizzy with joy. The feast afterward was a celebration unlike any the estate had seen. Humans and vampires mingled freely, the barriers between them dissolving in the face of genuine happiness. Emma danced with Eryx, with Mira, with Seraphine, with anyone who asked. Her feet ached and her face hurt from smiling, but she had never been happier. As the night wound down, Eryx pulled Emma aside. "I have one more surprise for you." "More?" Emma laughed. "I don't think I can handle any more surprises. You will like this one." Eryx led her through the estate to a wing she'd never explored. He opened a door to reveal a bright, airy studio filled with art supplies. "You mentioned once that you used to paint before your mother got sick and you had to focus on work. I thought perhaps you would like to start again." Emma stared at the studio, overwhelmed. "Eryx, I don't know what to say." "Say you will use it. Say you will make time for the things that bring you joy. You have given so much to this court, to me, to Mira. Let me give something back." Emma turned and kissed him, pouring all her gratitude and love into the gesture. "Thank you," she whispered against his lips, "for everything, for seeing me, for believing in me, for loving me." "Always," Eryx murmured. "I will always love you, Emma." They stood together in the studio, wrapped in each other's arms, and Emma felt a peace she had never known. This was home. This was family. This was everything she had ever wanted and more. Years passed. Emma and Eryx ruled together, their partnership a model for the entire court. They weathered challenges and celebrated victories, always side by side. Mira grew into a bright, confident young woman, her trauma fading into memory as she built a life filled with love and safety. On the 5th anniversary of their wedding, Emma discovered she was pregnant. It should have been impossible, human and vampire. But love had a way of making the impossible real. When she told Eryx, he wept with joy, holding her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Their daughter was born on a cool autumn evening, small and perfect, with Emma's brown hair and Eryx's silver eyes. They named her Dahlia, and she was the light of their lives. 2 years later, a second daughter arrived, and they named her Alara. She had Emma's eyes and Eryx's fierce spirit, and she kept them on their toes from the moment she could walk. The estate filled with laughter and chaos, Mira delighting in her role as big sister, teaching the girls about the world and protecting them fiercely. Emma watched her family grow, her heart so full it sometimes felt like it might burst. On quiet nights when the girls were asleep and Mira was in her room, Emma and Eryx would sit together in the rooftop garden, just as they had years ago. "Do you ever regret it?" Eryx asked one such night. "Giving up your human life?" Emma thought about it. She thought about the studio apartment with the black mold, the endless debt, the soul-crushing job. She thought about being hungry and tired and alone. "No," she said firmly. "I don't regret a single moment. This life, this family, it's everything I never knew I needed. I'm grateful every day that I gave that bread to Mira. That one act of kindness changed everything." "It was not the bread," Eryx said softly. "It was you, your heart. That is what changed everything, Emma. You showed me that love is not weakness, that compassion is not foolishness. You taught an ancient vampire king how to hope again. That is your true magic." Emma leaned against him, watching the stars. "I love you, Eryx Ashenheart, more than words can say. And I love you, Emma Ashenheart, my queen, my heart, my everything." Below them, the estate glowed with warm light, a home filled with love and laughter and the promise of a future built on kindness. Emma had come so far from that rainy night in the market, from the woman who had nothing but still gave. But in the ways that mattered, she was still the same, still kind, still compassionate, still willing to see those in need and help without hesitation. And now she had a family who loved her, a court that respected her, and a husband who cherished her. She had a home. She had a purpose. She had everything. The night wind stirred Emma's hair, carrying with it the scent of the garden below. Somewhere in the estate, Dahlia laughed, the sound bright and pure. Mira was singing softly, a lullaby Emma had taught her. Alara was probably causing mischief, as she always did. This was her life now. Beautiful, chaotic, overwhelming, and absolutely perfect. Emma closed her eyes and smiled, letting the happiness wash over her. She had given her bread to a hungry beggar girl, and the vampire king had made her his queen. But more than that, he had given her love. He had given her a family. He had given her a reason to believe in magic again. And that, Emma thought, was the greatest gift of all.